Welcome back, everybody. We're here for another episode of Peach Pit. We've got some Week 4 review and some Week 5 preview for our PCH events at Carrollton, North Charleston, and then our upcoming Week 5 event at Albany. We've got some good content to cover, but before we get started, we have to make the usual disclaimer that any views or opinions shared on the show are solely that of the individual contributor and do not reflect the views of Peach Pit, any FRC team, First, Georgia First, South Carolina First, or any of their affiliates and sponsors. So, the idea behind the show is to serve as an FRC talk show that focuses primarily on the Peachtree District. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, so don't be surprised if you see us drop some hot takes. Ultimately, we're hoping to provide some entertaining and engaging discussions. With that said, we're going to jump into introductions. My name is Kellen. I'm currently functioning as a member of the Georgia First Planning Committee and taking some time off from mentoring.
I am Thomas. I'm a consultant for Team 4451 Robots Garage.
I am David Allred and a mentor from Team 4451.
I'm Brian Carlson. I'm with Ignite Robotics, Team 6829.
And I'm Anupam. Oh.
Whoops.
All right, I'm good. I'm Anupam Goli. I'm the teacher and head coach of Team 9477 Lambda, and I am not a robot.
Good to check that box, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll also get another shout out, as we maybe not so routinely do, to our producer Ian as a 1746 mentor from Otto. So very much appreciate his work on the back end. With that said, we'll jump into then some Carrollton review and some North Charleston review for our Week 4 events that we just wrapped up this past weekend. Who wants to? I think we had let's see. Oh, I guess it was just David at Carrollton, right?
Yeah. Fun venue. We decided to hop the border, go down to Carrollton. Never been there before. Never even been to the city before. Really enjoyed the place. It was very nice setup, very spacious. Had a lot of room to move around. So I just really enjoyed the simplicity of everything there. As far as the competition, it got pretty spicy out there. There was a lot of different, competition going on. Of course, we knew going in with the preview that it would probably be Walton, and then who do they pick, right? And so who did Walton pick? So after ranking first, Walton picked 7451 Avenger Robotics and 8865 Dakula Droids as their third bot. The finalist was all the way down at the number 5 alliance with 6340, the Manatees, 4026, and they changed their name to Decatur Robotics, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then 9500, the Mighty Rookie, I think they're called G28 Robotics. They want to talk about them in a minute. And then awards, Walton was able to snag the Impact Award as well, so double gold clean bling for them. Engineering Inspiration was won by 4188 Columbus Space Program, and the Rookie All-Stars, again, the All-Stars being Team 9500 G28 Robotics. Couple of interesting things that were going on. Let's talk about 9500 for a second. So if anybody, or hopefully most of y'all have seen part of the stream right now, you'll know 9500 sports a pretty vicious spoiler auton. And so nobody really wanted to go up against those guys because they basically they don't have an amp mechanism right now. They don't have a shooter, so they just go to the midline and bump all the notes out of the way. They do have a climber for in game and play defense in the middle, and they are fairly effective at playing defense without fouling. But it's a very well built machine, and they came to play, and that's I think a key reason why that number 5 alliance advanced all the way to finals. The qualifications, although we were not the first 4-rank point match, we were able to pull off a 4-rank point match with 4451 and Walton. That was on Saturday. And then I think the first 4 rank point match was down there in Charleston event, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that was an interesting little spicy mix. Pretty much the alliance play there or qualifications play, I should say. Similar patterns to other weeks, where cycling and then amping became more and more important, and then the autonomous modes, which we want to talk about later, were extremely important. In game, still not so much, although there were enough climbers to make it kind of interesting. Other things that I saw there. Well, there's one other thing dropped off my mind for a minute. But anyway, I'll stop there for now if y'all have any questions about it. The competition.
I just wanted to give
Yes.
sorry, Kellen. I just
Go
wanted to give a little shout out to 7451. This is their first ever event win.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they've
Yeah, they were
always
a
been
rookie starting in 2019, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, first ever event win, and they've won Impact Awards several times. So it's cool to see that their program is just on the up and up in general. But yeah, and very good at that. So, kind of one thing that I wanted to talk about at Carrollton was, if you look at playoffs, I don't think the playoff scores have been updated yet, so you can't see it. But I was watching them, and compared to Gwinnett, the scores were higher in the playoffs. And I think that's just kind of, we talked about how maybe there's not as big of a top tier, but there's more mid-level depth. And that's kind of what I saw at this event as like a streaming spectator. There was just a lot of mid-level play, like a lot of capability in terms of scoring in the speaker. And so scores were going up because there were teams that could, play the game, and more of them that could play the game at some basic level. Is that something you saw, David?
Yes, definitely so. And then, so basically, like I said, going in, Walton was, the best established cycler there, and there were just so many people vying in that next level for, who could be, help them win it if they could, make it that far. And Avenger Robotics was a great pick because they had a solid autonomous, great cycling, and so probably that, their autonomous mode probably swung it in their direction. But people like Columbus coming out, but they were cycling great. There was a lot of different mid-tier cyclers, if you will, that were just playing fairly consistently. And then we had the introduction of iHot with their first event, and we got 4 other teams that showed up for their first event. And so iHot was improving along the way, and so you just had a lot of people that were shooting at the speaker. Again, not too many.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the rankings. I think it probably spells a pretty comparable story to their, their Anderson win. But yeah, Walton just heads and shoulders above everybody else with 34 ranking points, and the next team with 25. But there's a lot of breathing room there for.
They're just pounding the melody rank point. Bam, 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 bam. It's just nonstop. Pretty much. I don't know if they got it every time, but pretty close. Pretty close.
But yeah, nice to be in a position to kind of have your choice of the rest of the field. But like everybody is saying, I think it's cool to see that next tier continue working on refining their game, stepping it up to. I think most of these teams have played their second event outside of iHot, and I don't know if there are 1 or 2 others that have backstacked their schedule with a week 4 and a week 5. But it's cool to see more and more teams figure out, like, all right, if I'm trying to be useful for a playoff alliance, how can I start playing that game earlier to showcase that skill set, like we were talking about with 9500. I think that the few matches I caught for quals, they were running that full defense strategy, running the center line bump auton in quals just to show off that skill set. And the earlier you can start doing that, the better.
I think that's something that we'll see starting at DCMP. And looking at last year as an example, it wasn't really until the match one of DCMP that you begin to look and see that, okay, the traditional 201D doesn't work. And because of the depth of DCMP, you were able to pivot. Right now, because district events are so or don't have or aren't don't have enough depth, all those robots that would be the nice to have third bot are being pushed into alliance captains or second bot roles, which they just aren't best suited for.
Right.
Yeah, this reminds me of a lot of like 2018 robots that were excellent. Like they're the switch robots or the ones like just scoring low cubes in the driver's station. There were a lot of fantastic robots, but they were perfectly cut out for being third bots, but they had the nasty side effect of seating too high at district events.
Yeah. And then there's not enough depth on the scale, so oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you really struggled to rack up district points that way, even though you were perfectly cut out for even to be a world's third bot. That you're just not in a position in the district game to really advance easily.
I mean, that's just the kind of the nature of FRC. To be a good support robot, can you make it to the champs to be a support robot? Right? It's kind of like circular logic.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, some interesting changes in play happening. Again, seeing more action on that center line and autonomous, either offensively or defensively, I think is going to be some interesting development as we get into district champs and obviously the last week in Albany coming up. So while we keep talking about Carrollton, do we want to do a North Charleston review as well?
Let's do that. And then, because I want to come back to gameplay a little bit. Just focusing on Carrollton. Other people were playing the game, including North Charleston, the very first event at North Charleston Athletic Center.
Yeah. So you had your winning alliance, 1102, 343, and 1319. And then your finalist alliance was 1287, 6366, and 7104. Then for your awards, your Impact Award winner was 342, the Burning Magnetos. And your Engineering Inspiration Award winner was 3489, it's Category 5.
Yep.
And there was no Rookie All-Star awarded. So kind of my takeaway as a spectator, well, a streaming spectator on North Charleston was, the event list, the roster was very similar to Anderson. So it was just like Anderson upgraded. So you got to see all the teams that went to Anderson 2 weeks later with all the iteration and improvements. And you saw a little bit more of a competitive game with more refined autonomous modes, more accurate multi-node autonomous modes, and even some that are starting to hit the center line. 1287 was one of the biggest improvements. They ranked like 27th at Anderson and made it all the way up to third rank. Let me double check that.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
third rank, second kind of alliance captain, right?
Yeah, with 27 ranking points. So definitely not like something to sneeze at there. And in general, ranking at Anderson was really close. 1102 ranked first with 30 ranking points. 343 was 28, 1287, 27, 342, 25, 63, 66, 24, 281, 23, 69, 25, 23, and then some 20s, 19s, and 17s. So I think the kind of the story there is that ranking points aren't end all be all, but the teams in South Carolina are fairly close to each other, and so that made for an event that had a decent amount of depth.
Right. Yeah, playing with all these guys for all these years, it didn't surprise me that it was the 1102 343 alliance. That was kind of what I had in the back of my mind, but it depends on who had ranked and how the qualifications came out. I thought 63, 66 might have a shot at the #1 alliance. I'm really happy for 1287. They're really good program for many years, and I'm glad to see that improvement. And they were the #2 alliance captain. I thought that role may have been played by either somebody like 342 or 281, but it ended up being 1287. So congratulations to those guys.
You also want to make a cool shout out for a first time PCH event happening at Charleston this year, David?
Yes. So we were trying to predict the first 4 rank point match, right? First official one, and it happened in qualification match 6 with 343 playing the role of the Trappist. And they did it again in match 38. So they got 2 4 rank point matches, the natural way, not the foul way.
Yeah. And checking my notes here, we have when will the first 4RP match take place? We had Thomas and David at District Champs, myself week 5, and Anupam and Brian with the correct answer of week 4. So,
correct. And we had 3 this week. So good for you guys. Now I just have to add a couple more to get to 150.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I thought you said 175.
No, Brian, that one was me.
Well, I wish there was an easy way to see how many times 343 successfully trapped. I know they did it quite a few times. Their trap.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Their trap co-PR component OPR is like 0.77 for the event. So.
Yeah. So quite a few times.
Yeah,
they were chasing it at Anderson, and they just decided to perfect a few things and bring it out for the next event.
Yeah, I've heard of some other trap mechanisms out there. Yet to see them work, but excited to see that hopefully take off by the time District Champs rolls around. We got a little bit of time before that happens, so curious to see how that affects the good old ranking game we got.
I heard from another team that says they will be adding one. So yeah, we might have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 Trappists.
Well, they need to get like 6 or 7 and do it about 80% of the time at DCMP.
So
I can get my 50.
1,000 traps, and we'll have it wrapped up.
I was talking to a team at Walton's past week at the DE space. I'm like, I need you guys to start trapping like crazy, and I'll give you a dozen of donuts. I need you my 50. But
I don't think anybody's ever hitting 175. I don't know what I was doing when I thought that was feasible.
We need to implement drug testing, right?
We all thought we were wrong at some point. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, don't forget, we didn't think a melody would happen until week 3, week 4.
I'm still lamenting the end game. I'm sorry. But this whole thing is like, who cares to climb on the dang chain?
Exactly. It's interesting to see how you kind of want it for the triple climb and with a ring on top, the high note, but outside of that, people are just shooting and just park at the last second.
Shooting.
Yeah, unless you know you can't go into another cycle, everybody's just shooting.
I think there's more value if you can harmonize, because then it's not just 3 points. That's 8 points for 2 robots harmonizing. So that makes it a little bit more worth it. But
most there have been very few games in quals in most matches where you're like 2 or 3 points apart.
Yeah. Did we see harmonies in Carrollton? Because I think there were a few in Charleston.
Harmonies is where you get the climbing RP, right?
No, it's just 2 on the same chain.
Oh,
2 on the same.
The ensemble is getting the RP.
I don't know.
I didn't.
Top of my head.
I've seen some attempts at it, but I've not personally seen any successful executions. Not that I've seen a ton of matches, but
usually, if you lose Auton, like it was last year, if you're losing Auton, you're fighting to get back, right? And so you're trying to get those the speaker and amps to try to catch back up. And so, yeah, the extra point you get for climbing versus getting a note in parking. So,
Yep.
Which I feel like we might see some more intentional strategies around come district champs, is to say like, yeah, we know we're going to lose this match, but let's like figure out how to get as many RP out of it as we can if we know we're gonna lose it.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of how I always think about the game is, yeah, I would like the win and the 2 rank points for that, but isn't it nice to grab any other rank points you can get?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2, if I can always get the other 2, then hey, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and that's something that I always like to harp on our drive team, and David can attest to this, is always looking at what is the next viable RP that you can try and grab, right? And always trying to go after that the most. So like if the most viable RP for you are winning the match, then to go after that and do anything you need to win the match. But then once that is secured, or once that is not attainable, right? So either it's so doomed it can't happen, or it's so in hand that it can't not happen. You start then going down your list of, okay, what are the things that I need to do to get the next attainable RP? So something I think a lot of teams need to do a better job is looking at it and going, oh, we're not going to win this match, but we have 3 climbing robots. Let's see if we can all get together and find a way to make sure we all at least get 1 RP, which is something that I think a lot of teams can do a better job at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So David, you had mentioned before we started about some of the things you noticed at Autons in
Yeah.
Carrollton.
I wanted to know if we want to pivot to Alton. Yeah, so Autons. Okay. So Carrollton, for me at least, was a little bit tougher to coordinate than in Anderson, I guess. As season goes on, people start adding more Autons, want to try different things. And so, but there was still somewhat a lack of flexibility in, people's Autons that they had in their bag, right? So I guess one thing I'd recommend is everybody probably needs a shoot and sit Auton, right? So, and you're going to need to do it from the sides of the subwoofer, or if you can do a bank shot from way off on the corner, that's fine. But you gotta sit there and let the person that can do the preload and the 3 up front, you got to sit there and make sure you don't hit them. And then anybody that's going to the center line, again, they don't need people moving around as well. So shoot and sit is a very good one to have in your back pocket. And there were some teams I was playing with that had a one in the front that they could shoot in front, but they couldn't shoot on the side.
That and
coming up next year is an A pause button instead of an A stop button.
I mean, speaking on that, I think something that teams can do is better utilization of their A stop button. I think there were many instances where I would see teams go midline, miss their midline note, but then their robot would still drive all the way up to score. And it's, just sitting there like, guys, if you notice your midline missed, press the A stop button so you're right there when you can grab the note out of teleop to make it easier to score. And so I think we need to see teams show that and be more willing to show that earlier and in a more strategic way.
Yeah, the A stop button is not just a something goes wrong, hit it. It can be used as a strategic tool.
Hang on, wait.
Yeah.
So
I'm hanging on.
We have used the A stop button, right? Because something went wrong, and let's just sit there, right? There is a significant delay. I'll say a significant delay between A stop and the robot stopping. Okay, so if you think you can I set my shot and I don't want to move again, bam, A stop. That's not what's going to happen. So we had a robot that says, yeah, we're gonna shoot our preload, back up, get the center note, shoot it, come back, shoot it, and then we're going to stop because our next move is to go to the podium, and you're going to do, we're going to do something else over there. Well, they hit the A stop, But by the time the system figured that out, they had already moved to the podium and knocked their partner out of the way.
Yeah.
And people are using a stop instead of shoot and sit. They will shoot an A stop, but again, they hit the A stop, the robot moves and hits you.
Right.
So you
And
legit shoot and sit, not a stop shoot and sit.
right. If you're using a stop, or actually, regardless if you're using a stop, make sure your coaches are synchronized, understanding which one happens, because if you're not using it on a regular basis and you need to do it a one-off, hit the right one, because you definitely don't want to hit the E-stop, right? So make sure you're aware of that. If during quals you're not really using it, but during elims you need to use it, you practice that.
Yeah. But I think, to David's point, every team, it doesn't matter if you're 1771 or 2974, every team should have a shoot and sit autonomous. If you're up against the subwoofer, or if you had to drive back, a shoot and get out of the way, or a shoot and come back. So because it's not worth the 2 points to mess up an autonomous that can score another note for 5 points. Or another 2 points.
Yeah, burn the 2 points. It doesn't help you with ranking. It doesn't help you with anything. It's 2 points, and you're knocking your partners around. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You get 2 to give up 5 shot.
Yeah, or you could be giving up 2, or you could get 2 and then give up 10 because you knocked somebody from going to midline.
Yeah,
and they're off course now. So you don't want to bump into each other. And there was a couple of little ATOM collisions.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to see, but.
And if you don't have one and you're not sure how to implement that, I'm sure there are several teams either at Albany or DCMP that will be able to help you out with that.
Yeah, and speaking of advances in the autonomous game, I think you got to keep your foot on the gas wherever you're at, because you're either have some offensive autonomous modes where you're going and scoring any bonus notes you can, either the close ones, or if you've started playing with the center line ones, even better. But you've got to know what's coming down the pipe, and that so many more teams are going to start center line defense runs. Is you got the building chess match going of, all right, well, if you're doing that, then I'm doing this, and then you'll do that, and then to start figuring out what the next move to be made is, and keep working on auton modes that'll keep adding value, getting as weird as things. And I imagine 1771 has to be the poster child for this, probably. For if a note gets bumped on the floor, is to say the robot knows where the note is rather than where the note was supposed to be. But yeah, just robots that are able to make those adjustments on the fly instead of just being so dependent on the note being where it's supposed to be, which I think is a really cool dynamic of this game, to build in that dynamic in autonomous mode.
Something interesting kind of reminded me of Gwinnett. A little bit funny, but speaking of chess matches, right? Going into playoff match 1, right? We knew we were going to run a centerline disruption auton, but we didn't know which side to run it on yet. So we waited to put our robot until the last possible second to see which side 1771 put it on. Now the rules say that the higher red alliance gets to make the last call on where their robot gets put, but I don't think 1771 paid particular attention to that. So we were able to look at where they put their robot and then set ours down.
You showed your hand, Anupam. You got to keep that in your back pocket for district champs.
Well, I remember.
I think it'll just.
What do you mean? There's a rule that says the red alliance gets to.
Well, see, so
it's one of those where it's only rule if the red alliance decides that they want to call placement.
Yes.
So the top seeded alliance has to go. We want to call placement here. And then the placement rules go into effect. Otherwise, it's the standard. I can put my robot down whenever I want to. Yes. So I definitely think at states you will see, like we did, I think in 2018 was the last time where this was consequential, was you wanted to mirror, okay, that robot is the one that's going towards the middle. I want to be on the mirrored to them. So if If we both have to either go far to hit the scale, we both have to go far, or if we both have to go, short, we both get short instead of there being a discrepancy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, we in Grits 2021, when it was a 2-day event, going into, I think it was semifinals or finals, one of our bots were broken. And so we waited to the last second and then said, we call a placement order. And they're like, well, that's not going to help you because the bot that you want to go on last is actually the one that has to be placed first. So that still won't help you. So yes, you do have to call for it though.
Yeah, we'll do the District 10 preview show, but it can sound get spicy. I was actually sitting there laughing to myself, thinking about making a randomizer autonomous. That even I don't know which note I'm going for. you hit a button that goes.
Isn't that called normal? That's just normal programming, right?
But I think that, and you joke, but I think that's something that as the district progresses, and I hope DCMP is at this point where if you look at like even week 1 FIM events, which is first in Michigan, you had like in finals 3, I think it was Frog Force's first event where every match the note order that the teams targeted midline changed. So I think it is going to be like having an ability for you to be able to on the fly and go, okay, this match we did note 1, then note 3, but this match I want to do note 4, then note 6. Right, is something that'll be very, very beneficial as you try and play these games of chicken that are inevitably going to happen. And even if they don't happen at states, these teams that we're talking about, the 1771s, the 1261s, this will really help them become better and better prepared for when they inevitably go to Worlds. Because these are something that these world teams will be looking for and need to have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where if you have your drive chain characterized and you use something like Path Planner and you understand, how far past that note you need to go to reliably intake, it does not take much in Path Planner to draw up a new path. If you can trust it, right? The pathing becomes the easy part at that point, right?
Yeah, just don't hit that dang stage lag,
right? Exactly. But yeah.
Not randomized path, randomized first note. So, this is gonna get crazy at the high level. I have no idea where this is going.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing some acting as a drive team member to like get behind your robot, like acting like you're aiming for one note, and then your robot just goes straight for a different note.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Drama class.
I do like the randomizer though. Like you just
even I don't know where it's going.
You set it down and it tries to go underneath the stage and go for straight for the center note first.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, like why not? If I know you won't expect me to go there first, and I'm trying to maximize the amount of points I have, why not go for that first? And then I definitely think we will also start to see teams go after teams that can do the 3 up close start doing autons where okay, I can do the 3 up close, but I know this midline spot is being contested, and doing something similar to what we see like the poofs out in California are doing, where it's okay, let's go to midline first, do those contested ones, and then come back to do my 3 that I know are guaranteed. So I think there's a lot of little things and little timings that we should expect, and I hope to see teams start to implement as they go throughout the season.
The other thing on that end, I think, is a top tier team designating themselves as the centerline bot, and they just say, I don't care about scoring them. I'm just going to get out there and shoot those all onto my side instead of risking them getting taken by the other alliance. And know enough of them are going to be contested. You're not going to score enough of them, but at least to get them all on your side.
And I think so that would be a good like spoilerish auton for if you know that you can't match the speed and accuracy of the alliance that you're facing. the biggest thing, the biggest difference maker so far has been autonomous scores in winning matches. So if you can
Until all
level
the
that
chat
playing field,
robots come out at night
Yeah.
for in-game scoring.
but another
Yeah.
thing that I can see is, and this is kind of, you know, previewing DCMP or talking for DCMP, but do you think there will be enough depth where you can have your two top
midline.
robots go midline and
Yep.
then have a third robot do the center, or not the center, but the front three?
I don't think there'll be that much depth with it.
I think yes, but it's not going to be a top 3 alliance.
It'll
Right.
have to, yeah.
You know, because there are more and more, you know, there are more and more 4-piece autons coming online. And I think we've seen more advanced autons than we did last year. And last year we saw a lot of teams doing it, right? And so you had the teams that were doing the balance, right? And if you were going out and getting the 3-piece, but there's, you know, starting week 1 and 2 and 3, there were a bunch of teams doing 4 or more, are just doing it as we go. So yeah, you could see a 6, 7, 8 seed where you could do that. Now, you know, if you're down there, do you have the firepower to outshoot them during teleop? We'll see. But yeah, I think you'll see something like that at TCMP, but in the lower ranks.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of moving a little bit too far ahead.
Yeah.
With DCMP talks, because we still have one more district tournament left.
So speaking how the game is changing, how do you think, you know, Albany is looking to be pretty stacked with some really good teams. Do you think the gameplay stays the same or starts changing a little bit in quals or in elims?
Well, I guess first, do we want to talk about kind of who's going to be at Albany, and then I think that discussion is going to lead into this.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So you've got your defending champions for Albany are 6919, the Commodores, 1683, Techno Titans, and 5828, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I will have it in just a second. Sorry, guys. It's just that Flying Riots. I think that's a rename from something. They were not there was not a Flying Riots previously, right? I think they were Westover or something.
Yeah, Westover Robotics. It looks like this is still their Instagram handle.
Yeah.
Or at least on the Blue Alliance.
I love the team name though, Flying Riots. So those were your defending champions. Of those, you have 6919 here,
and 5828.
and 5828. So 2 teams that are going to try and reclaim their throne. So for this preview, we kind of divided the teams up into 4 categories. You have your locks, which are the teams that we expect to be seated in the top 3, 4. So you have 1771 and 1261 who paired up at Gwinnett to win the event, and they are currently top 40 in EPA in the world. So then we have our tips. So these are the teams that we expect to do well and likely seed top 8. We have 4509, the Mechanical Bulls, who were finalists at Gwinnett. 6919, the Commodores, who haven't played since week 2 in Dalton, so I'm kind of curious to see what they've been working on under the wraps. And Team 4112, the Eagle Bots, who have also not played since Dalton week 2 and have probably been hard at work making some improvements. Maybe you want to continue on talking about our wild cards and our dark horses.
Yeah, they all hop in for some wild cards. We got 6925 who made their, I believe we're another one of the back stacked schedules who actually have both of those more glaring examples of back stacked schedules for 6925 and a 1414 IHOT as wild cards. These robots both made their debuts this past weekend and have another quick event coming up just before district champs as well. I didn't catch too many of their matches, but it seemed like iHot came out and showed some inconsistencies, but showed some high highs and some low lows for, I think, missing some matches for getting things fixed. But curious to see what improvements or steadiness they're able to bring back, bounce back with for this Albany event. Another wild card we have on our list is 2415, who is a earlier Alliance pick at the Gwinnett event, I believe, putting together a developing performance. They're getting better and better throughout the event, but excited to see what they pull off or bring to this Albany event with a little bit of time between their week 3 and week 5 events.
Real quick,
yeah.
Sorry. I wanted to expand on 6925. So 6925, this might be one of their best robots in recent memory. They were ranked 7th at Charleston last weekend, and they made it all the way to match 13 in the playoffs. I think this is they have a decent autonomous. You know, they've been working on multi-disc auton. They even were able to try and pick up a centerline one. I don't know how successful it was, but they're trying, and they can refine it. And I think with some driver practice, they can really be, again, they're a wild card, but they can really make some noise here at this event, and you should definitely not sleep on them.
Yeah, and our last category we have is dark horses. We got one lonely robot in this category, and that is Ignite Robotics 6829. This is a robot that I think is a little bit behind schedule for where they wanted to be coming into their Gwinnett event week 3. That they had built up through the event for getting stronger as elims or as playoffs happened, but I think has a lot of growth to grow into. Brian, what have you all been working on this last week or so?
Yeah, so we learned some lessons from the Gwinnett event. So we had to go through and do some rework in our shooter, not more about improvement, more about keeping it sound and up to the beating of this game, because this game can be very jarring on a robot. So yeah, we this past weekend working at Walton on Saturday and Sunday, got some good time in, got some driver practice a little more, flushed through some issues, but we'll see what happens when it gets on the field, right? Because all those videos you see, look, it worked the first time. Yeah, sure. It's not like that.
Well,
And so yeah, we're very optimistic. It's been a really good 2 weeks. We'll see how the robot does, but as far as the team and execution, has been really great. So looking forward to the event.
Yeah, it's cool. I think there are a handful of teams out there that have had the similar case where the robots kind of had most of the puzzle pieces there, maybe missing 1 or 2 things that need refinement, or that once you get an intake figured out, that the rest of the system then works more seamlessly. But it's cool to see once those puzzle pieces do come together, that you can really see a robot come to light that might have looked sketchy otherwise. So I'm excited to see what y'all are able to pull off.
Yeah, I quoted David a few times. Drive the robot you got, not the one you want, right? And so it's like, all right, let's focus on what we're going to do, right? It's a short turnaround, even at competitions, right? You're trying to do stuff on a practice field. Pick something you can execute and work on, and just embrace what you have and just drive it like you can.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to sort of circle back to the tips. I'm going to give a shout out to 6919 Commodores. They are on a 6 district qualifier run of winning blue banners. So it's been a minute since they haven't won one. So I'm not saying that they're going to be the 1 seed, but if we're talking top 2 to 4, I would definitely put them more in the Lux category, but that's just my opinion.
Albany's their home turf.
They
got to defend their home crowd or home
Yeah.
field, right?
Yes. Something else as a little bit separate from the competition. If you're going to be at Albany, we're doing a little bit different burgers and bots than we've done in the past. Burgers and bots, for those who haven't heard of it, is a little get together that Ignite is done in the off season, and at events we're at for the night of load in, for mentors to sort of get together if they have some time around about 9 o'clock, just to get to know everybody else, because this can be a very lonely season if you don't have friends on other teams. You feel like you're on an island. What's interesting is I was talking to Tom Cleveland, a judge from the Gwinnett event, is looking at bringing down his grill and cooking up some stuff. So we're looking at trying to do a burgers and bots at the 4C Academy, which is where the Commodore is built out of. So if you are down there in the mentor,
Interesting.
you could stop by, talk to me, or you can potentially talk to people at the Ignite pit about details. But please join us for mentors.
Brian,
Sounds more like a brisket and butts.
Oh yeah,
I love
Brian,
it.
I want to propose something for DCMP.
yeah.
We have a mentor grill out.
I will gladly volunteer Tom Cleveland for that. And by the way, he listens and he's always commenting in our thing. So Tom, that barbecue you're thinking about, DCMP for sure.
I will.
Brisket or pulled
I can
pork?
pack-
What is it? It makes a difference.
Are you coming to Albany?
No, I'm talking about I thought this district champ thing we were just talking about.
Well,
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of that for district champs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just none of that Carolina vinegar sauce. I like the sweet
Wait a
barbecue.
minute.
It's-
Oh, Alina's
Oh.
looking
Are we about to get into a barbecue sauce
Hey,
war?
them's fighting words. You hear?
So yeah, we can work something out for there. Since I'm volunteering people, Josh Riddick.
I'll volunteer at 1771 to bring one of their old robots to roast, roast whatever you want to over it.
That's what it,
I'm pretty sure
the
that
robot
last year
smokes
already got
flavor.
burned.
Is that a pressure treated wood on there? Let's make sure there's no chemicals in there.
It might be a little fumy. You might want to watch out.
That's just that robot smoke flavor, guys.
Yeah.
not quite a mesquite. What is this?
We call it magic smoke flavor. Yeah.
It would be perfect for load-in night. We can only drop stuff off, right? And if you're sitting there waiting to unload, you just, grab a hot dog.
Well, yeah. So last year at DCMP, I think most people kind of didn't load in on load-in night. They load in the first day of the day two. And it was that night that we went out. We had about 15, 20 people going out at DCMP. We could probably find something around there, because I know Albany, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this cookout, is places close at like 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. And I'm guessing Macon's going to be similar. So nice cookout would be good.
Yeah.
So Josh, I'm going to need your trailer for that too.
And I'll pack my grill into the trailer. I think we should have room.
Make it happen.
That reminds me, I always wanted my trailer to have a smoker built into it. So, forget the robot room. We need the smoker in the front.
So
All
does
right.
that wrap up Albany?
So I guess back to what you were questioning leading into Albany is, what do we see at Albany? Do we see a significant jump in the game? I'd imagine we're going to see a little bit more play as usual, with small advances amongst the crowd for developing either autonomous mode bump ups, maybe the debut of one or two more trap mechanisms. I think I've heard of a couple of these robots, I think 1771, I think 4112. We'll see if anybody else comes out with a trap mechanism. Those are ones I'd keep an eye on. But I think we're going to see those general advances across the board. But I think we're going to see comparable depth at this event that we've seen for most of the other events. They don't really get to play around too much with triple offense, or but obviously worth keeping your eye out for that diamond in the rough that might be able to play that assist role. But something to keep an eye out for.
I think with more teams doing, if not 4, but at least multi-note, right? I think you'll probably see some more teams trying to, during quals, going out and starting doing center line work so they can practice not only in the practice field, but in quals. And then if you have a comparable bot on your side, you might see some intentional counter autons just to try to break that down, because if they get 2 or 3 extra on the center line, you're down 15 points. You can't, it's hard to defense 15 points or outscore them by 15 more points. So that goes.
What I think is what I predict, I guess, is looking at this lineup, it seems similar to Gwinnett in the sense that it is kind of a top heavy event. So my prediction is that you will see centerline autons. I don't think you'll see too many centerline spoilers. I think rather you'll see teams trying to race for those centerline notes in autonomous. But I think you will start to see more strategic use of amplifying and hoarding notes in order to get as many amplified notes as possible in order to recoup any loss or any deficit in autonomous.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of teams will start to do, is hoarding, like you said, hoarding them, and to better optimize their amperage. Like, that's another thing that I've seen a lot of teams notice. And one of the things, I don't know if it's been said today, of like, stop chasing your missed shots, don't chase your rebounds. Go ahead and congratulations, you just missed a shot. You've won a chance to get 2 rapid fire when you're amping. Like, there are tons of teams are quote like wasting time. Like, oh, I missed. Let me go pick up this thing and and extend my cycle instead of just going and grabbing another one. This game is all about just throughput. Mm-hmm. If you're able to shoot, like, get 30 game pieces on your side of the field in general, regardless of scoring them, you will largely win. So even if you shoot, you miss, go grab another one and then go and try and get your rebound while there's an amp cycle or something like that.
Right. So what's interesting, we'll see how drive coaches are operating, because you have counter autons. If teams see that people are leaving their notes on the floor, especially out in the open, when you cycle back, go grab those free ones and instead of going from your source, because if you don't pay attention to those when they do amp, they have a stash for them to start picking up from.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something we look at when we're going to the source instead of crowding your own partners. Hey, there's a nice juicy one right in front of that other subwoofer.
Yep.
Go get that one.
Right.
Yeah, as far as like alliance makeup or strategy, I just don't see the depth to try and do triple offense here. It's going to be 2 offense, 1 defense. What I have started to see, though, around first is if at regionals, you still see blocker bots, but in districts, you're starting to see teams shy away from blockers. And I think we saw this at Carrollton and Charleston here. More effective than blocker bots, it seems, is source defense. So you just teams defending the lane to get to the source or from the source to their side of the field.
I didn't see very many. I didn't see all the playoffs. I don't remember seeing blocker bots. They were source defenders.
Yeah. So I think in that sense, defense is evolving. I've seen pictures of regionals around the country that are still having those blocker bots out there to block the subwoofers. But I think in our district, teams are wisening up or able to get around the blocker bots. So I guess that's one evolution of the defense.
Yeah, the teams that you'd want to block on scoring can score from all 3 sides of the subwoofer. In looking at Walton in week 1 and everything, we should put a blocker bot out there. You can stop people. I said, everybody knew Walton was doing that. And I'm pretty sure they thought about what can we do to stop them, right? There's you can defend one spot. There's 3 of them, and you can just pick one or the other. So their value sort of starts going down. And as the season goes on, as people get more drive practice, they will get more effective at playing positional defense by the source or trying to play bumper to bumper on, a specific bot, right?
It's difficult to play down there in front of the subwoofer all the way across the field, especially if somebody can just pivot around to the amp side.
Yep.
Surface of the subwoofer. It's dangerous city for foul points. I've seen, like 25, 35 foul points get racked up very fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there'd be an interesting role if a team with the resources to do it would get into the blocking game, to have the the flap out 12-inch extensions to really maximize that overhang for blocking shots. But you really need a swerve drive. I guess you don't need it, but you just really need to be really maneuverable if you want to have a shot at blocking off any of those faces on the subwoofer. But the other benefit of those huge blocking platforms is it really decreases the drive team, the opponent's drive team's visibility of the field in a number of ways, just because they're not able to see back through your robot to where notes might be on the floor.
So what you're saying is you're going to basically go about 15 feet away from the source and just stay in front of that drive team's vision. And so they can't see their bot going.
Which is oddly technically illegal, but yet it isn't. I think it's just rules to put, like cover up their driver's safety glass. But I'm just covering up the subwoofer, which happens to be right in front of the driver.
Well, no, I'm not saying.
So Brian's saying if this is their source and they're coming to pick up here, is just put a robot here that's just blocking the full view of that source.
Oh, so they can't even.
They can't see their source.
I thought it was on the source. Okay, on the source then. Okay. I didn't think that one.
So they can't see the note on the floor and where to pick it up. So they really need that first-person view camera to know where the note is at.
Oh, how did you guess 9500s? How did you guess 9500's next iteration from that robot?
I've talked to them about a couple of iterations, but that'll be an interesting one if they pull that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're dedicated to defense this year, like that is the way to go. Is if you don't want to do any offense, if you just want to play spoiler, go and put that blocker on and ruin everyone's day.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. I love ruining people's days.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna be honest. Like, just looking at this, and there's a lot of things that I think looking at this game from a strategic point of view are really, really interesting. But there are a lot of things that teams have left, or stones that have been left unturned, in my opinion. I'm not going to unturn them for teams that aren't me. But I definitely think there are things that people haven't necessarily looked at and thought of when it comes to stuff like defense, varying, and maximizing your teleop throughput that we just haven't seen in PCH when we've seen it elsewhere. So just be on the lookout and be aware of not only what's happening inside of Georgia, but what's happening elsewhere, because you can, use those other regions' innovations. And if you're the first person to do something like that is almost a strategy that's almost exclusively done in like California, and you're able to bring that here and make it work, you almost always have a leg up. Like an example of that, you almost always see it in esports, which is something like it has a large demographic with the robotic scene, where you'll see in games where there'll be separate metas on region and region, and then all of a sudden there'll be a team that picks up on the meta from a different region before everyone else is, or when everyone else doesn't, and then all of a sudden they just become the raid boss because they've realized something outside of their own ecosystem. So just be always looking out there for little things that you can see and learn from and optimize towards as you're going out this game.
I think that's where
I think picking up on, so if you're a team that's already played your 2 events and has a solid grasp on if you'll be at district champs, is really, really, really look at the high level play we're going to see at regionals in week 5, because there are going to be a lot of notes to keep an eye on that are going to be much more comparable to our district champs event with 50 teams,
Right.
because we're going to have the depth of those regional sizes. We're going to have a lot better robot. Again, just better depth. That you're going to see some much more interesting strategies happen even in qualification matches. But like Thomas said, it's keep developing those strategies, but also be dynamic with them. Know who you're playing against, know which ones to pull out when, know what ones to keep in your back pocket until you really need to pull them out. But yeah, keep the other team guessing, and you can give yourself a better shot.
It kind of on Thomas's point of like strategies that come from other regions. I think one of those is spoiler centerline autons is there's only been 2 teams here in Georgia that have done that. My team and 9500, and that's something we stole from watching California and Texas. Same with ferrying notes. That's a lot more common in Texas, Israel, New England. There hasn't been, I think there were 2 robots that have done that in Peachtree so far, and that's us, and 1771 tried it. But don't be afraid to try and integrate some of those strategies from other regions and do your research. Like New England has some crazy competitive events.
Yeah, they do.
And
they tend to be a defense-heavy region.
And I'm personally a really big fan of watching FEM and First in Michigan. Like every they always have 4 district qualifiers going every week, and all of them are always certified bangers, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think the game's going to evolve where, especially once we get the DCMP, it's definitely going to be a chess match. And just like in chess, there's several different strategies. The teams right now who have dominated the events have done basically one strategy. I'm just going to outcycle you, and you can't touch me, right?
Right.
Yep. And once you get the DCMP, then it's like, which way are you going to play this game? Because what you did isn't going to be the differentiator. It still work, right? It just won't be a differentiator. And seeing how the teams have, like what I've seen at 1771, working at Walton, I know teams are out there are waiting for that. And so I expect them to be all ready to sort of, as soon as you catch them up, they pivot, right? And so I'm also kind of curious to see where Walton goes, because they haven't done anything to their bot other than a shooter. I'm curious if they're going to bring something with them. Are they stick strictly with a shooter? But we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like the areas where there's the most growth, possibility in this game, wind up being to really, really maximize the usage of the amp, to really squeak out all the points you possibly can from each note being scored in the speaker. But number 2 is, and I'm really curious to see how this plays out at District Champs. Obviously, we got to wait another week for that to happen. Is how the stage really comes into play later this season. Unless this game just plays out as a shoot game. But I'd be really curious if the stage makes an impact on how final rankings at DCMP play out, and who ranks number 1 and gets to pick the best robot.
I'm not so sure. Well, unless you're doing the trap rank game, right? But what I've seen is there's been very tight matches, right? So if you're not optimizing your amping and your speaker shots right, you're just putting up 2 points versus 2 points versus 2 points, and this 3-point climber comes in, the last second climb that can swing a game.
And also, I think what teams need to look at and not necessarily as a gameplay perspective, but from a strategy perspective, is look at what happened last year around alliance selection and the ranking game going into like DC at DCMP. I think since we're going to have such a deep event at DCMP this year, and I know this is getting ahead of the game, but for most of our teams, that's where you're looking at is all these extra ranking points are now going to become a lot more available for teams, because not only are you going to have the robots that are able to solo them, a lot more teams and alliances are going to be able to get these ranking points in the aggregate, right? So unlike these district events where, okay, the best team, Walton is the best team, they get 3 RP every match just by themselves, they're going to be the 1 seed. That becomes a lot less likely, and you then also have an increased chance of a situation arising where the best robot isn't necessarily rank 1, and then you start having to play around declines and scorches, which can and will I like to see them happen because they're fun. Not necessarily if you're the team doing it unintentionally, but that's something you need to plan for. And I think like the reason why DCMP last year, and we all kind of look at it and we all say that was so good, and there was and the way Elam's played out was people pivoting to triple O. That was only really possible because the scorch of 4188 and caffeinated happened.
4189
or 4189, sorry, not 4188. But because they were up there and teams denied them and were locked out of picking each other, then and only then were all these luxury third bots guaranteed to be third bots. Else, while through inner picking, you would have seen everything bunched up, and you would have just had a bunch of killer 2+ Ds. So that's another thing that teams need to look at is in alliance selection. I think a lot of teams look at what is the best robot, and not necessarily what the right robot is given the situations. And on top of that, teams need to be aware of the situations that they're in going into alliance selection. Because I think if you look at the teams and alliances that were prepared for it, for example, the 1746 alliance, where it's okay, we're intentionally going to get a robot that cycles here, a robot that cycles off the ground, and a robot that cycles off of the double substation. That way, for triple O, all we have clean pathing and clean driving lanes, we're able to be a lot more successful. But the teams that were caught off guard by that and didn't necessarily have that, off the top of my head, and I could be wrong here, like the 4188, I forget, I think they were with 6340 and then one other team. Whereas all of them primarily got off the double substation and then end up getting in front of each other, right? And even so, though those robots were probably the top 3 best raw output, they weren't necessarily the right because they got in chop of each other's way. So that's something that a lot of these teams, while you're sitting at home watching week 5, while you're watching all these other events, is also look at how you think about the game going into a line selection and how you play the game and play with a cooperation bonus. Like, I understand there's a side of me who's like, cooperation bonus, slam it every time, but it is a part of the game, and it is a tiebreaker in rank points. You saw it at Dalton with 1746, where they intentionally, to get the tiebreaker, scored a note in their opponent's amp because they realized no one else was doing the co-op bonus. So if you can control that and make sure that yours is higher than anyone else's, your percentage, you then can you can better influence the rank game if that's your prerogative. So those are all things that you need to be aware of. I'm sorry for this being a long monologue, but that's just a lot of things that I think that I've thought of that I think teams should be aware of and plan for.
Kind of on your point with cooperation, I mean, we see a lot of teams do it, and it doesn't seem to have too much of an effect yet, just because rankings have not been super close. But my expectation at district championships is that you will be getting the Melody ranking point more often than not, and that cooperation will be will be actually used to break some ties in rankings.
And on top
I'm
of
curious
that,
to see how the note bump winds up affecting things, but I think it's going to be negligible enough. The alliances, the robots that are really capable of cranking out that many notes, aren't going to see too much of an impact. Just by a 3-note raise on those floors.
I think the meta is at DCMP, details count. So I just went through and counted up how many matches at Carrollton were within 5 points of each other. And I think there were about 5 or 6. Last year, Ignite in our 12 qual matches had 5 matches that was within 5 points, right? So I don't care about climbs. Weren't a big deal before, right? And now you're like, well, if I get that climb at the end when the scores are tighter, the drive coaches need to pay attention and make sure they pay attention to the details, where the score's at, because you're going to have more decisions to make because it's going to be that much tighter during DCMP.
And not only will it be tighter because teams will have a higher level of teleop output, but what we're seeing at these events is teams jumping to 30 points leads in Auton and just winning it there. Whereas you have to look at it, every note you score on midline isn't just a +5 for you, it's a -5 for the other team. And so it's really a 10-point delta. So as teams start scoring and disrupting midline, like we should see, because the amount of Auton depth that we've seen across multiple events that just weren't together, those teleop and those little things, the minutia that you think of like, oh, it won't matter, all of a sudden is going to come roaring back and going, oh, it does now. Yeah. So you need to be, like Brian said, details matter. If you look at 2013, largely everyone ignored the climb up until the end where they just slammed and got the last second climb the low, because that was a quick, easy way for them to get 3 easy point. I don't remember what the point number
10.
was for that. It was 10, right? But still, in a game that is presumably going to be a lot closer, those last 3 points that we can get this year is going to become more and more significant.
Yeah.
Yep, it is.
So this sort of the season becomes fun, right?
Yeah.
It's not just it's not brute force anymore.
Yeah.
This is a definitely an interesting game with different ways to play it. You've got to pay a lot of attention to what's going on. It's mental gymnastics back there. Other than, I'm just going to blow it out with raw cycling. That'll last for a while until it gets complicated.
I think this is one of the most strategically in-depth games that First has released. I'm like last year it was just a race of who can go fastest from point A to point B and who can stay out of each other's lanes. But here, there's just so many ways to game plan. Like, do you win autonomous? Do you spoil autonomous? How do you do the amplification? You can't just pummel the speaker and expect to win matches. And do you play source defense? Do you vary? There's just so much strategic depth in this game that I think was lacking from last year, 2022, and beyond. So yeah, this is where it's going to get fun. This is where you win in the brain, not just on the field.
Yeah.
Well, winning in the brain leads to winning on the field.
Yep.
All right. I think we got a lot of good details there on what to expect leading into Albany, as well as some further looking forward to what we'll eventually see at DCMP, and who knows what later on. One thing we'll do before we wrap up, I think there was any question for adding another quiz to our donut shop, or Thomas's donut shop, is I guess more specifically, is it just going to be will we see a unicorn match in Georgia where we see 6 RPs happen legitimately in one match?
So that's basically both teams doing both of the bonus RPs and one of them getting 2 for the win.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you just need 2 trap robots against each other, right? And with 2 climber with a climber on each line as well.
I don't
shoot the melody.
I don't want to say no, but I also don't want to say yes. Like,
Yeah.
I think
There are donuts on the line, Thomas.
I know. I
Great.
think this one is just it strictly depends on qual schedule. I think as walking around the pits, as soon as I get my match schedule in my hand, I'll be able to tell you yes or no. But like this one, I feel like isn't necessarily something you can like. It's
not
like,
enough crap.
does the district have the right robots in it for this to be happen? Yes. Like, I do think it's possible. I don't think it's something that we should go like, oh, it's not going to happen. But it's one of those where it's kind of outside our control because it requires the perfect storm of do the does the match schedule gods give us that perfect match where you have, 4 robots who can climb, 2 on each alliance, 1 that can trap on each alliance, and then all of them can do, shoot enough notes to get the RP. Like it theoretically is possible, but you have to win the dice roll, and the dice roll, I say, makes it improbable.
But all right, I'll say this. I don't think
Is that a no, Thomas?
That's a no.
right.
That was a long no.
That was a
Yeah,
long no.
it's like
That was a
week
long
6
wishy-washy. If it's a yes, I can say I said it was possible, but I don't think it'll happen, so no.
Oh, you just hedged your thing.
So it's a long no.
Yeah.
You're
I
only
put
gonna
in the
spend
sleep
whole
talking, so I don't remember the answer. Got it.
All right.
Oh.
So-
we're kind of beating this to death, and we time out because we have a whole nother show for next
Yeah.
week that we can talk
Yeah.
about district
Yeah.
champs and strategies. And I'm going to
Mhm.
probably try to bring some stats from other regions that we talked about amp, what I'm calling amp efficiency stat, which is effectively figuring out are you maximizing the ratios of amp to speaker to amplified speaker.
Mhm.
All right, Brian, Anupam, and David. I got a yes on the board. I'm going the optimistic route.
Ooh, Kellen, you
let's
want to
go.
explain your guess?
Huh? I think the stars are going to align. You're going to wind up with 2. I think it's going to be a super scarce thing, just given the amount of trap mechanisms we've seen so far. But it's definitely going to be at district champs if it does happen. But yeah, I'm crossing my fingers, and I think the whole stadium is going to be hooting and hollering about it.
Yeah.
That would be
So-
fun. That's the fun part I want to see is multiple traps going at it.
So if that happened, field
Mhm.
team, please pause, get photos before you start letting people out.
Yes, most definitely.
Right.
If
Yeah.
we see a 6 RP match, I think we need to pause the event, Ronald Acuna 40-70 style, play a hype video, and then move on with our lives.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
All
going to say no at DCMP. I think there's probably going to be 4 to 7 bots that are going to trap. The question is, can they trap fast enough where they could stay in the cycle game long enough? Because if you have 2 bots that are going to be doing all the scoring, you don't want to break early and lose the game. So I think no, just because of the fact I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it fast enough.
That's a different kind of no, but we'll go with it.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna
but I'm
say
a clear no though.
Not a wishy-washy.
No.
not a monologue now. I am gonna say yes, and it's not gonna be a trap robot versus a trap robot. It's going to one of them.
Yeah,
is
triple
gonna
climb
be
with a
triple climb with a spotlight.
with the spotlight. Okay.
I was looking through Charleston's stats, right? There were quite a few matches where he had 2 on stage. Some where he had 3 like not just park but on stage. You had quite a few that had spotlight. So I think there's going to be one alliance with 3 climbs, one of them spotlit for the ranking point, and then on the other alliance you're going to have a trap robot and another climb to get it.
One more day.
And I think South Carolina, it seems like there's a lot more climbers there than Georgia. Georgia seems to be more about park and shoot, and South Carolina, they go more for climbs.
So South Carolina's going to pull
Historically, yes. That's
Yeah.
true.
I think I could even go even further and say that there's going to be at least 4 South Carolina teams in that match, but that might be a little bit too specific.
All right, now give us the team numbers and which driver.
343
3 versus
and-
2451.
Yeah.
With
And
Walton,
human
already
player is-
one. I think we got this.
These are the human players are going to be throwing the rings on there, right?
All right, David, your last answer. What do you get?
Oh, unicorn. Yeah, I'm gonna cheat and say possible, but I'll go yes.
No.
I'll go yes. I'm gonna go yes.
We
I
also
think
have
that's
possible.
another one.
I think we have the skill, and as Anupam just pointed out, it could be 3 climbers in a spotlight. So I think we have the skill to get that done. it's a challenge to the district to make this happen.
There you go.
Gauntlet thrown. I mean,
We-
heck, I'm going to
So
throw like 150 traps.
I will
Why not throw out
gladly,
a yes here for unicorn?
I'll gladly offer, since I'm volunteer people, for the alliances that do that. Thomas will give each alliance 2
Nope,
dozen donuts.
nope, not true. Fake news. No.
I think we ought to, if the first match that that a unicorn happens, we should give all drive teams some donuts.
No,
I think that's fair.
Well, all
I
right. So,
volunteer Brian's wallet to do so.
all right.
I mean,
so
I'll buy it.
I'll go with you. Yeah,
I'll chip
a
in,
dozen
yeah.
donuts for every drive team.
Yeah.
All right.
That participates, not every drive team at the event, right?
No,
Yeah, this is-
that
this is
participates in that
strategy,
match.
yes.
That's
In the
unicorn.
match, right?
Okay.
Important caveat.
Kelly, you reel us in and let's end this thing before we.
All right, I think we got enough of the general last piece of advice just before our donut shop monologues happened. So I think we'll go ahead and get things wrapped up. Looking forward to week 5 PCH. Look forward to seeing some more robots out there. But keep up all the good stuff, and we'll see you there. I'll be at Albany reffing, so looking forward to seeing some action from the field side.
Nice.
Oh, reffing. Ooh.
Yeah, first time for FRC. I've done it for Vex Worlds before, but not. So this will be a fun one.
Cool.
Who's the MC there at Albany?
I'd have to take a look at the volunteer list, but
All right.
well, you'll have to show up and find out. But until then, good luck, PCH. We'll see you out there.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.